Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So the Republican tax bill, they believe they have the votes for this particular thing, and Donald Trump doesn't necessarily care about the country itself, so he is going to pass this ghastly ripoff of the American public. The wild part about this is they originally didn't have the votes. They were holdouts, but now they have the votes. That's interesting. So what took place? Why did someone change their mind? Why did people change their minds? Have you ever heard of the Corker Kickback? Corker Kickback. I love the term, the Corker Kickback. So if you think back to when the healthcare law was being passed, the Affordable Care Act, there were certain politicians, there were certain senators that were holding out. There were kickbacks that went to that particular senator's district in order to get him to sign on to the Obamacare, essentially pork. They put pork in the bill. Corker is in the middle of a firestorm with what's being called the Corker Kickback. Corker asks how real estate provision ended up in the tax bill. The awesome part about this is Corker was like, hey, how did something end up in the tax bill that's going to give me a bunch of money on my real estate? How did that happen? I demand to know how I'm going to get extra money. Who's sticking money in my pocket? I demand to know that. The story is amazing. He was against it. Money got added to his pocket, and then all of a sudden he was for it. And this is not pork in the sense of a district. This is money going to his specific pocket. Many of these congressmen are going to get money in their pocket based on the tax bill that they themselves are voting on. It's fucking amazing. That's Bob Corker. Senator Bob Corker sent a letter on Sunday to Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah asking how a provision that will potentially benefit real estate owners, including Corker, make it into the final version of the Republican tax bill. I'm shocked by this. Who knew they had gambling in this establishment? Who knew? Who knew? Because this issue has raised concerns, I would ask that you provide an explanation of the evolution of this provision and how it made it into the final conference report, Corker wrote. The International Business Times reported Saturday that a provision added during the reconciliation process allows owners of income-producing real estate to take advantage of a 20% deduction for pass-through entities. The Senate version of the tax bill includes rules that allow deductions to be claimed only by the businesses that pay their employees significant wages. The provision would potentially benefit Corker and President Trump, among others. Corker says Sunday he did not have a role in writing the legislation and asked Hatch, the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, to explain how the provision made it into the final bill. He suggested it was the House's version of the tax bill and remained in the final version after the conference committee sought to reconcile the House and the Senate bills. He's trying to make this point of, look, I know I was against this bill, and I know that now I say I'm for the bill. And I know it looks like I'm for the bill now that I've got a tax provision that's going to put money into my G-string. But that wasn't it. Trust me, I have integrity. Yes, we're putting a huge amount of debt on the back of the American public in order to advantage ourselves and our donors. But trust us, we have integrity in this process. Look at the bottom. The bottom part is great. He voted against the Senate version of the tax bill, citing concerns that it would add to the national debt. He was against it before he was for it. That's great. You can understand, Corker, that it looks a little strange that all of a sudden a provision was added to the bill that allowed you to get money, to advantage yourself specifically, to advantage yourself individually for something that you yourself is voting on. And all of a sudden you're for it. You can understand that people look at this with a certain amount of skepticism, saying it looks like he's getting a bribe to himself. That's what it looks like. Instead of just giving a bribe to his donors. I put the bill at the bottom. The Corker Kickback. Corker Kickback. We've jumped the shark from this whole thing of pork and a spending bill that goes to the particular district itself. This is pork in a bill that goes to the individual themselves. Goes to the individual themselves. Donald Trump is going to get a bill on his desk. He's going to sign Donald J. Trump, and he is going to go to the bank and he's going to cash his check. He's going to cash his check. That's amazing. It's like we've gone beyond this point of doing things that would advantage a particular district and doing things that would advantage their donors. They said, fuck it. If we're going to rape the public, let's rape the public. If we're going to rape the public, let's rape the public. Yes, we might as well get ourselves some out of this deal if we're going to give these kickbacks to our donors and our plutocrats in this way. So yes, we're also going to stick money in our pocket. What are you going to do about it? He's sending this thing to Hatch, passing the buck. Hey, how did this get in here? How did this get in here? I bet you're not going to take it out though, are you? Not going to take it out, are you? You're going to cash that check and you're going to say thank you very much. And you're going to put that debt on the backs of the American public. Mind you, even if this wasn't there, you're still putting $1.5 trillion on the back of the American public. You voted against the Senate bill, citing concerns that it would add to the national debt. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. You know what has changed? You getting money in your wallet. You getting money in your wallet. The Corker kickback. And by the way, this is not just Republicans. Democrats, same thing. If I'm not mistaken, Ben Nelson, back during the Obamacare thing, when they were trying to push the Obamacare, they were holdouts. And one of the things they found out was there were pork in the bill. In this specific case, though, this guy wasn't putting money in his pocket in the same way that Bob and some of these other Republican senators are putting money in their pockets. But still, it was still this pork thing. One thing you can count on, though, if Democrats are going to rape the public based on the policies that they go by, Republicans are going to make it worse. Republicans are going to make it worse. So yes, if they're going to get a kickback, they're going to like, we can beat that. We can beat that. I can write this legislation that would allow money to be directly funneled to my pocket. The world is good. The world is good. The Corker kickback, ladies and gentlemen. The Corker kickback. You didn't think they could get any more corrupt? Oh, how wrong were you? How wrong were you? I will leave it at that. This was short. This is just a heads up of this kind of corruption notice. Now, mind you, they're putting 60% of that money that's going to go back, or the tax cuts is going to go to the top 1%. Not to mention they're raising taxes on the middle class in order to do it. So already this was somewhat of a dicey prospect that was going to rape over the public. They gave two shits about what the public thought about this. This was purely about their donors. One of the Republicans came out and said, my donor said lose my number if we don't pass this bill. He wants his tax cuts at the expense of the American public. Well, thanks to Bob Corker and a few of these other Republicans, including Collins, they're going to get those tax cuts. So I will leave it at that. All right, guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Corker Kickback. I love that name. I love that name. Thanks, guys.